everyone. Welcome to Bonds After Baby podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about really important topics that are good to get into with your spouse before baby comes. And if you're listening and baby has already come, it's okay. These are still topics to come together with your spouse and do some preventative care or maintenance care to protect your relationship from things that just might be struggles when they don't need to be that hard. Okay. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Anastasia Voron. She's a therapist specialized and credentialed in maternal mental health. She works with individuals and couples in New York and Florida, and she is working on this incredible motherhood center that integrates kind of like a multi-component care for new mothers that's going to launch this summer in mid-June. And she's also a mom to a lovely 2-year-old daughter. Thank you, Anastasia, for coming.
Thank you
So
so much
appreciate
for
it.
having me. What
Yeah,
a
it's
pleasure. What
lovely.
an important topic.
Yes, it really is. Yeah, we know from personal experience and as therapists working with people in the stage, parents in the stage,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's get right to it. I think one thing you and I both agreed on when we were chatting about the podcast today was how important realistic expectations are, right? It sounds simple, but it is huge. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. If you would like
Absolutely.
to go first. Yeah.
Yeah. And realistic is the key word here because we might have
Hmm.
expectations that aren't even idealized, but you just maybe assume there's like an immediate adjustment, an
Yeah.
immediate calibration that happens because you have such a strong bond with your partner. How can it not? This is your
Yes.
person, your safe landing space.
That's
And
right.
how often do I hear moms in the therapy room talking about how she feels or they feel that they're roommates with their partner? The
Yeah.
relationship is on hold. It's hard to prioritize.
Yeah.
There's so many role changes that happen in that moment.
Yes.
And I think understanding that there is a gap between realistic expectations and idealized expectations is
Yeah.
important because if we
Yeah.
don't, that's where shame lies. That's where resentment lies. That's where
Yeah.
miscommunication lies. That's where a simple ask for help becomes an argument. And it's
Yes.
rarely about that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's such a good point that it's not just that we're idealizing
Mhm.
parenthood and then it's falling short. I mean, even just knowing how the adapting will go. One thing I noticed too is that when there are unrealistic expectations or not enough awareness over what is like a normal adjustment to all of these changes, is that it'll go to panic thoughts and like fortune telling. Oh my goodness, we're always going to be roommates, or our sex life is never going to get back to what it was,
Mhm.
or oh my goodness, like we're never going to be connected in the same way. And often these kind of panic thoughts will start to take control and their behavior. Then you start relating to yourself and each other based on these fear thoughts because you're not aware that actually it's quite natural during this period, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, to not have as much energy for each other or intimacy or yeah, even like being able to have a conversation at dinner sometimes, even that's
Absolutely.
hard, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
know this. We all know this. And I think the lived experience of having gone through it,
Yes.
I see this in the therapy room. Like, we know
Mhm.
this. And yet, why do we have such a hard time explaining it to someone anticipating their first postpartum experience as an
Yes.
individual and as a unit?
Yeah.
Because it's like, how do you explain to an expecting mother what to expect without scaring like the
Yeah.
living life out of her or
Yeah.
removing any joy whatsoever from it?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
how
And
do
actually,
you
I've noticed on social media too in the past few years and dialogue around this is that it has leaned sometimes on the other side of like,
Yeah.
this is so hard. It's so brutal. And yes, of course, there are moments that are hard and brutal, but really the reality is it's a mix.
Yeah.
It's a mix of joyous moments. It's a
Yes.
mix of adjustment. It's a mix of harrowing moments too and like exhausted. It's just a mix of all of it
Yeah, absolutely.
and that it requires a lot of attentiveness, emotional, and practical help.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's like, just to ultimately know that it is an adjustment and that you just deserve care during this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such a practice of dialectics. It's this and
Yes.
that.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
not
Exactly.
here. It's not only one dimensional thing, it's
Yes. Yes.
multidimensional.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what a gift it would be for more couples, right? For both, not just for one and for this information just to be out to like moms, but really for partners and even extended family members to be really mindful. I remember when I
Mm.
had my first child, I feel like some of my extended family members forgot what it was like
Oh,
when it was them and would be like kind of dismissive or confused when I was having a hard time. And like, I
yeah.
think everybody needs a little reminder,
Yeah.
like, even when there are good intentions, but everyone needs
Yeah.
a little reminder, like, no, this is a major adjustment
Yes,
and it can be
absolutely.
scary. Yeah.
In one of
Yeah.
Emily Oster's books, in The Data
Mhm.
Scientist, she has like
Yeah.
this moment where she's like, I think moms forget. Like, why else
Yeah.
would we go through this again? Like, I
Yes, exactly.
genuinely forget.
Yeah, exactly, exactly for sure.
Uh,
I definitely forgot like the sleeplessness to have the second.
oh, the worst
I will
part.
say that. That's
That's
the
the
worst part.
worst part.
It is. It is.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
for
like,
me at least it was.
yes, and also like for moms when they're going through so many hormonal changes, sometimes it's hard to even stay connected with your prefrontal cortex, like your rational part of your brain. It's just harder because you're
Mhm.
in this hypervigilant, like alert kind of state
Absolutely, you are.
sometimes. And so we need the partners to remind us and to assure us to
Yeah.
assure the moms, like, hey, remember, like all of this is natural. It's okay that it's hard right now. It won't be hard forever. And to have that calming voice because I think it's too much pressure for moms to have that voice for themselves
Yes.
and that they deserve, to have others to give that to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the things that I wish partners could discuss and learn about together
Yeah.
before entering this season of life, because we know what happens in a birthing woman's body. We know what
Yeah.
happens in the changes, exactly what you're talking about. You
Mhm.
know, colloquially, it's called mom brain. And yet in our
Yeah.
society, mom brain is associated with this like forgetfulness, this like
Hmm.
dumbness, like, please
Yeah.
excuse me, I have mom brain.
Yes. Yeah.
But
You're
it's
right.
actually quite amazing what
Hmm.
happens to the brain because it's evolutionary, right? What you were talking
Yes.
about, the prefrontal cortex, gray
Hmm.
matter decreases, which is what accounts for when a mom walks in for a room and forgets why she's in there. That's the
Yes.
brain cutting out noise and allowing you to hyperfixate on your baby's needs. It comes from
Yes.
an evolutionary standpoint. The
Yeah.
amygdala,
Exactly.
the lizard part of the brain,
Yes.
lights
It's
up like
so
a Christmas
activated.
tree. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that red button going off in the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hormones change,
Yes.
postpartum, a woman's estrogen,
Yeah.
progesterone levels drop
Mhm.
drastically. That can look a lot like
Yeah.
depression, rage,
Yes.
disconnection, emotional flooding.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening physiologically in a
Yes.
woman's body that can contribute to communication.
Yes, exactly. And we can see kind of how this plays out in a back and forth and an
Uh-huh.
infinity loop dynamic with a spouse because when a mom is dysregulated in this very natural way sometimes and requires the soothing, I've seen couples where to the partner it's alarming because they don't have realistic expectations. They're not informed that these kind of reactions or ways of coping are normal. And
Mm,
so they're alarmed. And then for the mom to see the partner alarmed or disturbed is feeding into that shame narrative of
mhm.
something's wrong. I must be losing it, and then they feel worse. And then that's going to keep perpetuating this disconnected dynamic where no one's getting regulated and it's setting off more dysregulation back and forth. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, again, this is why like just having that basic education
Oh, yeah.
before
Oh,
is so
yeah.
important.
That's so
Yeah.
beautifully said. I mean,
Yeah.
the research shows that up to like maybe even more, 80% of moms experience baby blues,
Yes.
which is a
Yes.
2-week period after giving
Yeah.
birth, which is
Yes.
marked by all these things. And if it persists beyond that, I wish partners knew about PMADs, perinatal
Yeah.
mood and anxiety
Exactly.
disorders, things like
Yep. Yep.
perinatal depression, anxiety, OCD,
Yeah. Adjustment
PTSD,
disorders.
adjustment
Yeah. Yeah.
disorders. We
Yes.
know
Yes.
what those are. We know the
Mhm.
criteria. I wish families knew
Mhm.
about them and
Yes.
could at least be on the lookout or normalize or decrease shame because it's rarely
Yes.
the mom's fault.
Yes. I know that more and more OB offices are screening for this, but
Yes,
it's not enough.
that's
This
not
really needs to be every single OB office is doing this regularly
absolutely.
and is also comfortable. I mean, I've had parents tell me that they've spoken with their doctors and the doctors are visibly uncomfortable discussing
No.
anxiety or depression. Yeah, yes, that they're like squirmy sometimes. Not, I mean, and I'm not trying to knock it. I know that there isn't much training, but there needs to
Yeah.
be more training for the professionals that are having regular contact. The same with pediatricians. I've been saying this forever. Pediatricians are the ones that have the regular contact
It's so true.
with all the baby visits. And so, of course, we know the effects, when mom is depressed or parents are struggling, that can have on a child, right? And so, and we
Mhm.
want to protect mom too and baby too. And so, why aren't they screening and checking in about this? They are literally it's the 40-day appointment with the OB and that's it. So
Yeah.
they're seeing the pediatrician more regularly.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like just I mean, like the 6-week checkup,
Yeah.
you're cleared
Yes.
for exercise and intimacy. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Good to go. I
Are you
know. I know. Once,
kidding?
look, I'm sure you've, talked about this too. Like once the baby comes out, they're like, all right, good luck.
Good luck.
It's just not much care.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's why the partners need to be really aware as well,
Yeah,
because it's too much to take care of yourself as a new mom. It's just too much. You need someone saying,
absolutely.
hey, can we make that appointment? Or, hey,
Yeah.
do you want me to search on Postpartum Support International, see if we can find a therapist, So it's not even that kind of a load
Yeah,
too of getting help
absolutely.
sometimes as well.
Support is
Yeah.
out there. There are people who are trained in this, experts that dedicate their careers to this.
Yes. Yeah.
Support is out there, but the way our system is built is that it's on the onus
Mhm.
on the mom to seek
Yes.
out that support, to believe she
Yeah.
deserves that support, to know how to
Yeah.
navigate it. And it's so siloed. It's so broken.
No,
No one's
it
talking to
is.
each other.
It
And
is.
it's out there, but our systems don't take care of the mom in a way that she could just be taken care of, or they could just be
Yep.
taken care of.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. The links to care is a huge gap.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk more about matresses?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a
Yeah.
word that I wish everybody knew.
Hmm.
Matrescence.
Hmm.
Matrescence means the multidimensional journey of becoming a mother. It's like
Hmm.
adolescence for teens,
Hmm.
matrescence for moms. And in
Hmm.
both scenarios, it encompasses the hormonal changes, the brain
Yes.
changes, the identity changes, the changes with your family, with
Hmm.
work, with self, with body. And we would never ask an adolescent, a teen, to go back to who they were before the moment of adolescence, just in the
Yeah.
same way that there's no going back for a mom in the period of
Yeah.
matrescence. There's only this evolution. There's only this formation. There's only
Yeah.
this moving forward.
Hmm.
And so I wish more people knew about matrescence as a word. It's been around since the
Yeah.
70s. It was
Yeah.
coined by an anthropologist named Dana Raphael. And
Hmm.
I'm actually part of a petition through Peanut. Do you know the
To
app?
get it in the dictionary, right? Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
wonderful.
their marketing
Yeah.
was brilliant. They took an
Yeah.
ad out in the New York Times that said
Yeah, I saw that.
IDGAF is in the
Yeah.
dictionary, but matrescence
And but
isn't.
not yes, I saw it. That was fabulous. Yeah, and they have a point, don't they? Right?
Yeah. And so
My
I wish
goodness.
partners knew about matrescence, that these are
Yeah.
normalized experience, that it's this massive, like c- big change in a woman's body. Maybe that would
Mhm.
help normalize. Maybe that would
Yes,
help
exactly.
understand. Maybe that would help fuel conversation about why is this so hard? Why is this
Exactly.
so different?
To
Um,
acknowledge the multidimensional process that this
absolutely.
is, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And then I always just love to bring in it's a process absolutely for a woman. And we do need to name the differences that at least that women go through or primary caregivers are going through at that time. Because even adopted mothers, even if they don't have like, let's say the physical recovery or hormonal, their brains actually change in very
Mhm.
similar ways to birth moms when they're the primary caregiver, especially and stuff. But that We also acknowledge the partners and the changes that they go through too,
Yeah.
and that they are also susceptible for anxiety, adjustment disorders, depression, and it is often can be even a contagion. And when I say that, it's no one's fault or anything like that, but that sometimes when there's a dynamic and the couple doesn't receive the support that they need, or it can start actually manifesting in unhealthy dynamics between the couple, and then that will increase rates of anxiety and depression. Because there are defenses against, I think, coming together. Something feels unsafe between the couple and it gets reactive instead of like reactive or shutting down in those kind of ways. And so for us to also normalize, because I think partners need to realize like that's tricky for them too, because it's not a time actually where they can go to their wives
Yeah.
and lean on them in the same way that they maybe could before, in that early time. I don't mean forever, but like in that early period, those early months. And so, but it's also important that they get help also because they deserve it, because they're people, but also because they can show up, for the moms who are going through so much too. And so I think it's important to normalize that this happens for partners as well,
Absolutely.
and that they also need resources for support and to be able to find support outside of their wives at that time. And I'm not saying to, completely separate or anything like that, but basically not to lean and depend too heavily, because that can be too much. And then,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just not feasible.
No. I
So awareness around that too. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's so meaningful that you are drawing attention to the partner's experience in all of
Yeah.
this,
Thanks.
because that can
Yeah.
be sometimes forgotten. That can be sometimes under-researched, under
Yes.
acknowledged.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on there too. I mean,
Yes.
I've seen studies that show actual hormonal changes with a
Yes. Men
male
have them.
partner.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Mm, a big question of like, what is my role in all this? Because I
Yeah.
can't latch. I can't
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah.
Um, you know, as part, in one of my trainings, I believe it was through the Seleni Institute, they were talking about how in older generations, the man would not go online truly in the child's life until like 5 years old. Or the
Wow.
child had like cognitive reasoning skills, like
Mm.
logistical skills. I'm not
Wow.
seeing that as much now.
No.
In our generation, in these times, men are
Yeah.
getting up in the middle of the
You're
night to
heavily
change a
involved.
diaper.
Heavily involved. Yes.
I don't
Yes.
think my dad's ever changed a diaper in his life.
That's funny. My dad is always talking about how he changed so many diapers.
Yeah, probably as like no one else was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was the rarity. Yeah.
yeah.
But
And
but
so
yes.
this
Yeah.
evolution in just the father's role in all this,
Yeah.
they, they need support too. They
Yeah,
need
that's such a
support too.
beautiful point. I have to pop in and say that just the
Mhm.
changes over time,
Yeah,
and then that there's going to need to also be an adapting of what's my role, because this is not
yeah,
historical
no.
in the same way. Yeah, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to cut you off, but that's
No,
such a
no, that
beautiful
was it.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And I was at a training once when, it was like a postpartum mom's training. And I had asked a question about like what resources are for partners. And it was a joke, but the person who had led it said, oh, enough attention has been on the men. It's time for the women now. And I mean, I took that with the spirit that it was meant, which was like
Mhm,
humorous. And I take issue with that
mhm.
perspective because, hey, we all like everybody matters. And again, it is still going to be better for the mom too.
Oh, yeah, it's a
When,
win-win.
yeah, when the partners are well. The whole
Mhm.
point is that this is a family matter. And
Yeah,
so for everyone to be well and everyone to be able to connect
yeah,
and navigate together is going to be good for the family as a whole.
yeah, yeah,
And that's so important to
yeah.
remember. Yeah.
And I think what that looks like in reality is making space for everyone's emotional experiences.
Yeah.
Because in my couples therapy work, I don't know if you find this, but I feel like the essence of the fights is rarely the issue they're fighting about. It's
Yes.
usually about fairness, feeling
Yeah.
seen,
Yeah.
visibility,
Appreciated. Yeah.
appreciated, not
That's a
taken
huge one.
advantage of.
Yes.
I feel
Yes.
like just having moments of like, what are you feeling? I really want to know. This is what I'm feeling. Do you want to know?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
um, I think can be such preventative work.
Yes.
Saying what
For
you're
them to have
feeling.
skills, yes.
Yeah.
Like actually if we could bring in like the communication, like what partners should know,
Yeah.
just to have some communication tools and
Right.
strategies with each other that are going to deflate a lot of this fraught angst, tangled up,
Yeah.
feelings and defensiveness. And it gets really adversarial and tit for tat and competing about who did what and all of that.
Yeah.
I imagine that's also what you're speaking to. Yeah. Like when
Absolutely.
partners get in those, yeah. Like what are some things that you found are approaches, communication wise that are helpful to deflate some of that?
There are some really brilliant communication models and tools out there
Hmm.
that are so easy and waterproof.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is the nonviolent communication model, born out of the
Mm,
60s, like in the
yeah.
60s, four
Hmm.
simple sentences.
Yeah.
I won't take time in here to go into like
Yeah.
psychoeducation about it.
I'll
Google
leave a
it.
link in the show notes,
Perfect.
for our audience.
Four simple sentences.
Yeah.
I feel when I notice this because blank, this need is not met. Would you be
Yeah.
willing to? Four
Yeah.
simple sentences that
Yes.
do a really good job at not putting the receiving person on the defense or making them feel
Yeah.
criticized. I
Yes.
really love the Gottman methods, soft startups.
Yeah.
This idea
So
that the first 3 minutes are crucial for how the rest of the conversation will go, not
yes.
unlike a hook in marketing. What is your
Yeah.
tone? Are you
Yeah.
regulated? Are you coming in to fight or are you
Yeah.
coming in to have just teamwork? This idea
Yeah,
of like,
because yeah, so sorry, the
yeah,
couple's gonna notice if there's a tight jaw, a harsh
uh-huh,
tone. Are your eyes soft or are they like, razor sharp,
uh-huh,
right? Like your partner's gonna be tracking all of that and thinking, not safe, not safe, not safe,
mhm,
like get on the defense really fast.
mhm,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
it goes there immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so hard to find a moment where you have like 5, 10 minutes where you're not
Oh,
tired or hungry or
it's very
over,
hard.
overwhelmed, to just be like, listen, I really want to like connect with you on this thing. Um,
Yeah.
some more simpler things, I statements as opposed to you
Yeah.
statements.
Yes.
You
Hmm.
statements
Absolutely.
immediately tend to put the person on the defense. I statements
Yes.
invite empathy.
Yeah.
Um, I see moms in therapy rooms spending like 60% of session venting about their husband and then
Yes.
having a moment where they're like, but you know what? He did show up for me in this way. And I
Yeah.
do really appreciate that he's doing that. And that moment of gratitude, I mean, we see in positive psychology, the research coming out of UPenn, that moment is shifting. So
Yes.
practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
This is quite elementary, but I do talk about like a gratitude sandwich as a way to
Yeah.
deliver information, like a
Yes.
moment of appreciation,
Right.
something that you want to work on, but this is going quite well. So
Yes.
inviting more
Yeah.
gratitude into your life, not as a way for like toxic positivity, but just as
No.
a way to practice it because research shows that it does help calm the
Yes.
nervous system, helps
Yes.
the reframe, all of that.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I have a freebie on my website. I'll link to it in the show
Yeah.
notes where it has like an exercise that is like encouraging curiosity,
Mm.
validation,
Oh my God.
gratitude, and how all of this, when you go into this, it's going to soften your partner and they will be more receptive. And then it starts this really like a generosity of spirit that is like becomes like a figure eight between the two of you, where it's like, oh, that feels so good. Oh, I want my partner to feel good. Oh, I
Yeah.
want my partner to feel good. And I have to say, in my work with couples, man, they will be like, at it. And when we slow down and one, I help them really connect with their authentic feelings. And that's anger too. That's fine. But
Mhm.
also their genuine gratitude and compassion.
Mhm.
How fast it melts the partner. And then how quickly I see that they're like, oh, and no, 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 and they'll want to give it back. And it's like, man, if couples just had this roadmap to realize, God, when you catch yourself getting in those stuck, frustrating loops, just
Yeah.
stop. It's not productive. You're not getting
No.
anywhere. What's the underbelly of what's going on? Like you said, what feels unfair in this moment? What's your longing in this moment? And make space for both. Because another thing I talk about with communication is like, when couples get in the yeah buts, that's what I call it. Like one member of a couple will say something, sometimes even in a calm way, in a nice way. Another will be like, well, yeah, but you did this and, and immediately try to take it to their side.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, we're not on a tennis match here. You guys are on the same side.
Yeah.
And that's another lens shift that you and I have talked about before, which is choose to have the lens that you are on the same side, navigating whatever struggles come your way,
Absolutely.
not that you are on opposing sides. Because
Yeah.
once you get in that position, it's not going to be helpful
No.
to either one of you,
No.
right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not you
Yeah.
against your partner, it's you and your
Exactly.
partner against the issue.
Exactly. Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even just that image, right? Like shifting that image for them can be like, oh, okay, or if they catch
Mhm.
themselves getting in that place of on opposing teams, okay, wait, we're on the same team. We're on the
Yeah.
same side of the court,
Oh, yeah.
and can completely change the energy for them.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah.
goes back to our first topic about realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Like, listen, it's gonna realistically feel good for whatever reason to jab at your partner
Yeah.
or to come in with an
It's
angry
like a blow
tone.
valve.
I don't know why. I'm not
Yeah.
above it. I've had my moments, like,
Me too. Yeah, me too.
but
Yeah.
but we know it doesn't take a data scientist to know that does not lead to connectivity.
No,
Doesn't actually heal.
no,
Um,
no.
and so much of this is about tone and and regulation.
Yeah,
What's your
yeah,
tone? What's
yeah,
your intention?
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yes. And I would add to that that it's okay to be irritated, and
Yes.
it's okay for your partner to be irritated with you. Couples see this as a threat,
Mm,
and then they're immediately on the defense. And yet we have to normalize there is no relationship on earth that will not have disappointments and
yeah.
anger. And it doesn't mean that you'll be rejected or that you will be cast aside or devalued. It just means there's an issue to
Mhm.
take care of. And, I think it's important for both partners to start getting a little more comfortable if they can before the baby comes too, just because it's a little more fraught once the baby's there. And everyone's more depleted to just get a little more comfortable saying, yeah, we're upset right now
Yeah,
and something doesn't feel good. But you know what? We have faith that we'll navigate it together. And for
absolutely.
that to be safer, like a safer circumstance, because it
Yeah.
sure will come up when you're stretched
Oh,
thin
yeah.
after baby comes, like it'll just come up more.
And it ties in so beautifully to your point about some couples fearing like, is this forever? Are we ever going to find our
Hmm.
way back to each
Yes.
other?
Yes.
No,
Hmm.
it's not. Have
Yeah.
faith
Yeah.
that you will
Yeah.
recalibrate and you will find the norm.
Well, you can recalibrate, or it can start, perpetuating, I think, new patterns, which
Mm,
can be dangerous. That's also why I think it's important to catch couple functioning in early parenthood,
yeah.
because I've also seen that sometimes new coping strategies start when baby comes,
Mm-hmm.
and then it continues.
Mm,
And then it becomes the go-to
true.
because it's not dealt with. So yes, sometimes I think for some couples, yes, they are able to, they have the resources or the capacity to like notice, address things, bounce back, and that's wonderful. And some have a harder time stepping out of the patterns. I'm not being critical. There's many good reasons why it can be harder. But then that's, why it's important to get support for the couple
Yeah,
relationship and protect
absolutely.
it. Yeah,
What are
long
you
term.
finding are the themes of the couples that step out of it? What are they doing that we could all be doing more? Like, what are the themes that get them to break the patterns as opposed to
Yeah.
stay stuck in these new patterns, these new
Yeah.
maladaptive patterns?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say there's more of a capacity to take accountability
Mm,
for their part in something and to have the capacity for, yeah, actually, I could see how that was really hard, even if that wasn't my intention.
mhm,
But that's still really hard for my wife, or that was still really hard for my husband.
mhm.
And that they can hold both, that both are important. It gets out of the adversarial and back into like, yeah, this was hard for you and for me in different ways. And can we actually care about both of us?
Mhm.
And when one partner, I mean, it's not always like the same in every context, but like when one can make that move, it usually, not always, but it can usually start, then again, like that infinity loop where it's like, oh, I've gotten so much grace. That feels so good. I want to give that back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also what you were saying before, when the approach is with like intent for good. Like if someone, if the approach starts to be like, hey, I really miss you, instead of like, God, you're always like on your phone all the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I
Like,
versus you statements there.
yeah, exactly. See, it's all coming together, right? Like, yes, exactly. Like, I
Yeah.
miss you. I need more of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's gonna land differently.
Absolutely will. And I love what
Yeah.
you're saying also about how it just takes one partner to model it or to try it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
there sometimes can happen this under functioner, over functioner dynamic
Yes,
in a
absolutely.
relationship within different thresholds, within different realms. And
Absolutely.
something that moms talk a lot about is having like a big mental gymnastics, a big mental cognitive load where they're
Yes.
completely over functioning within the household realm,
Yep.
meaning that the partner, the husband or the partner is under functioning. And one
Yep.
of the ways to break that cycle is just to have one person model something different to rock the boat.
Yep.
Just take
Yes.
one
Yeah, to
sometimes,
shake up the system.
pick up the
Yeah.
system.
And I absolutely, and when that works, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
Sometimes it doesn't work because the other partner may have um a lot of defenses and walls
that's true.
and need, I think, more like have a hard time reaching the emotional safety to feel like, okay, let's give this back and forth. And there's some kind of wounds that aren't addressed. And so I think that can happen too. And it really just depends on the couple.
Yeah.
Um, but I always keep going back to capacity, like how how much space do you have to be able to reflect, regulate, and see things as they are in their complexity rather than like in a very rigid black and white kind of way. And I think that can be another tell of where there can be some room for couples to
Mhm.
breathe back into each other and to say, okay, what's
Absolutely.
actually going on here rather than like having a very rigid view of things.
Oh, yeah.
That could be, I think, another factor that leads to yeah, couples being able to be resilient together is a
Mhm.
flexibility, yeah, and a grace.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
'Cause
sure.
sometimes when you're in the throes of early parenthood and on
Mhm.
autopilot, things like groundedness, presence,
Yeah.
reflection are out the
It's
window.
harder.
Mhm.
No, it's much harder. Yeah,
There are ways
absolutely.
to bring him back in.
Yes. And actually, speaking of just like how stretched thin, I would love, Anastasia, if you could share with our listeners the amazing project that you're working on because women need a place to go where they are not adding to their mental load to be like trying to figure everything out in their multi-layered needs at this time.
Mhm.
And I'm so like in awe of this, idea that you've come up with. So I'd love to hand it over for you to
Oh my
share with our
gosh.
listeners about this.
Of course, thank you. This is actually this is might be the first time I'm publicly
Oh,
announcing this, sharing this out
I feel so
loud.
honored.
Thank you for
Awesome.
giving me the
Yay.
chance to. For the past year, I've been working on a motherhood center. My take on it, it's going to be called Doma,
Mhm,
Doma. It's like do plus ma, like do motherhood,
mhm.
action
Love that.
oriented.
Beautiful.
Um, and what I'm looking to do is create a space where a mom can feel taken care of.
Mhm,
What that will look like operationally is that when you come into Doma, you will be met with folks that specialize in maternal mental health,
mhm,
plus your village of care.
mhm,
Anyone you might need, anyone that you might already be seeking out for,
mhm,
under the same roof in one billing
mhm.
system, all kind of talking to each other, taking care of the mom. Um, it's something I would have really wanted postpartum. I
Yes.
specialize in this, and even I didn't take care of myself. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened.
Same.
My
Oh,
anxiety was
same.
through the roof.
Yep.
I felt like maybe I had like undiagnosed OCD at one point. The
Mhm,
intrusive thoughts
mhm,
were rampant. I mean, it was like
mhm.
I named it all and I didn't even take care of myself.
Yeah. Yep.
Why? I, I,
Yeah.
I
I
can't make
know.
sense of it. And I
Yeah.
wish I had a place whose ethos I trust, like connected with, whose
Yeah.
experts I trusted to just come in and be like, all the things you're experiencing are not you
Mhm.
being nuts. This is what they're called, and this is how we can help.
Yep.
And just to have a place, you know, for a mom to feel taken care of is essentially what
Yes.
I'm striving for.
Yes.
It's gonna launch with the waitlist option, I think maybe a few weeks after this
Yeah.
podcast launches or in the
Yes.
middle of June. And
We'll
then
definitely have links in the show notes for
thank
everything, so
you.
take a look at
Yeah.
that, listeners.
And
Yeah.
operational end of summer. But you know,
Wonderful.
please follow me on Instagram. That's where I'll
Yeah.
really announce when we launch.
Yeah.
And it's really meant for
Ther
the mom.
Therapy with Anastasia, right?
Yeah, therapy with
Yeah. Okay, I'll
Anastasia.
have
Yeah.
a link for that too.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And it's virtual, yes?
It's going to be virtual
Yeah.
first.
Yes.
And you know, I do have a dream of having real estate in New York.
Yeah.
But
Be
we'll start
wonderful.
virtual first.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is incredible. I am sure all the moms listening are like nodding their heads who are kind of past the postpartum stage of being like, man, I would have loved something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a fabulous idea.
Thank you
Yep.
so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a work
Yeah.
in progress, and like, you know, the offering will iron out based on what moms really need. It's
Hmm.
really for the mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. This is
Mm.
fabulous. Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much
It's
for giving me a
wonderful.
chance to
Yeah.
introduce it.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? It's been so wonderful having you as a guest today,
Yeah.
Anastasia. Thank you. I love having these conversations with you, and I hope it's really helpful to our listeners,
Mm.
just to normalize everything that goes into this time and maybe get some relief knowing that it's okay, it's natural, and there are ways to prepare. And even if you're on the other side of it, there are still ways to pay attention, to understand, and to bring some relief. Yeah.
Mhm. So beautifully
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm here for you and your family. Goodbye.